Gary Lee Sampson was born on September the 29th, 1959, in Weymouth, Massachusetts, to parents Charlotte and Albert Sampson. Albert worked in many roles, including a firefighter, salesman, and an ice cream man. Sampson had a brother by the name of Wayne, and although Sampson was born in Weymouth, he was moved and brought up in Abington. He had a childhood marred with doctors and specialist appointments, and while only a young boy, he was diagnosed with dyslexia. This held Sampson back from learning, and he was denied a special education, not due to the money, but due to the fact that he was so intelligent. Sampson made claims that his father was abusive towards him, and made cruel comments about him and his learning difficulties. And Sampson made a claim that his father threw him down the stairs, which resulted in an injury to the head. Sampson's life did not improve as he got older. He left school in the 9th grade and got himself involved with groups of people who were no strangers to the law. They were involved with a lot of petty crime and also with taking drugs. He was arrested a few times and luckily for him, escaped a custodial sentence. At the young age of 17, Sampson got married for the first time. This marriage was not a happy one and ended very soon after. He was to marry a total of 5 times in his lifetime and fathered 3 children with different women. He never stayed long in one marriage and even left one wife to be with another woman who he would then go on to marry. One of his wives he met in prison in 1998, and a family member of hers posted his bail so he could be freed and they could marry. In April 2001, Sampson was married to Karen Anderson, who he asked to join him in a Bonnie and Clyde kind of movement. But when she refused, he went anyway and started robbing banks. He went on to commit 5 bank robberies in just 3 short months. But this was only the start of a terrifying rampage which would result in murder. In the summer of 2001, Sampson had enough and went to change his life by going to the authorities to hand himself in. But what was to happen next was the start of a 6-day spree killing that would make history. On the 24th of July 2001, Sampson began to attempt to hitchhike and was picked up by a man called Philip McCloskey, who was retired. Sampson forced a scared man to drive to a spot which was not overlooked in any way, and then went on to fatally stab him with a knife he always had on him. While Philip lay lifeless at the side of his car, Sampson stole his car and just drove away. After a short while, he knew the car would be traced by the police, so he dumped it off and began to hitchhike once more. This time, the victim was by the name of Jonathan Rizzo, who was only 19 and a student. Again, he scared him into driving to a secluded spot and stabbing his victim until he died. A motiveless killing. Again, while the victim lay at the side of his car, Sampson stole it and drove off in haste. His next victim in the 6-day killing spree was Robert Whitney, aged 58. He was taken to a quiet area where there were some cottages, and this time Sampson changed the way he murdered his victim, and he strangled Robert. And then, as usual, he stole his car. This was on the 30th of July. The very next day was the last day of this heinous killing spree, and it ended with the 4th victim. His name was William Gregory. While attempting to carjack William, Sampson's usual MO, William, instead of going quietly, broke suddenly and skidded onto the hard shoulder of the road and jumped from the car while it was still moving to escape. He managed to get out unharmed, but Sampson, knowing his time was coming to an end, decided to run from the car. He got to a nearby ski resort and found an empty chalet, which he broke into and shockingly called the police on himself. When the police arrived, he held his hands out to be arrested, with no resist. Sampson was questioned at length. He went on to tell the police about calling them after the bank robberies to hand himself in. He told them that he was cut off after admitting what he had done, and as no one called back or came for him, he went on to commit further crimes. He also explained the reason for his change in killing, stating to the police that he did not want any more blood on his hands. He admitted to everything, and a trial was set in Boston, but due to the fact that he pled guilty, the jurors did not have to agree whether he killed the men, just what punishment should be given to such a man. The courtroom had to endure all the details of Sampson's crimes and his lack of remorse, while telling them that he cooked breakfast in the chalet while his victim lay dead. Even Sampson's family offered no real attempt at making him sound like a good person. His brother Wayne admitted that he had no worry about consequences for his actions, saying that he would always get in trouble at school or at home. Sampson's lawyers made case of 115 factors as to why this man should get life without parole and not the death sentence. But after 10 long hours of deliberation, a motion was reached, and on the 23rd of December 2003, Sampson was found guilty and sentenced to death. This sentencing was to be met with an angry outburst from Sampson, who swore at the judge once he had spoken. This sentencing was to also make history, as Massachusetts do not have the death penalty since it was removed in 1984. A federal death penalty law was introduced for crimes where a murder had been committed in the line of a carjacking or burglary, and this is how Sampson was given the death penalty. He was to be held at the United States Penitentiary in Terre Haute, Indiana. This was not the end of the case. Although it seems it was a cut and dry case, the perpetrator handed himself in and admitted to his crimes. But in 2011, the death penalty decision was overturned due to the fact that one of the previous jurors had lied about her past, and so the case was to be sent to a retrial, which made great news for Sampson's defence. They had already attempted to appeal the sentence. A new trial date was set for February 2015, but this was delayed due to the defence team attempting to stall for any reason. They had Sampson attend a mental health evaluation, which was put off many times. The outcome of this was said that Sampson was in fact bipolar, and as this was unmedicated, he was liable for the outbursts which were displayed. This was disputed by the case team. They had a similar evaluation performed, and it was said that Sampson suffered from a significant mental impairment and an antisocial personality disorder. This would not favour Sampson in a trial. The defence made remarks that Sampson was so cruelly treated as a child that the head injury he suffered at the hands of his father was to blame for his crimes. The judge ruled that it was the most convenient brain injury ever seen. The defence even attempted to have the judge removed from the case. But this was all in vain, as on the 28th of October 2015, Judge Wolfe rejected all the team's efforts for a retrial and slammed them for time wasting. And Sampson was resentenced to death eventually on the 9th of January 2017. Sampson had a reign of terror over 3 states: Massachusetts, New Hampshire and North Carolina. These crimes included robbery of person and property, assault, sexual assault, threatening behaviour and of course murder. Sampson now remains on death row in Indiana and will remain there until his execution date. Thank you so much for your continued support. Feel free to leave a comment as we enjoy reading them. If you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you want to hear more stories from Crime Busters.